I'm with Deputy Fire Chief Rob Hickley. Rob, you're going through a situation that very few people in life go through. You're one of the two whistleblowers here in Cornwall. You've been with the fire department for 27 years.
Almost 27.
You've undergone a lot of stress. You've undergone a lot of hardship, financial hardship. I think you're into this lawsuit for over $25,000.
Yes.
What is it about you that's giving you the determination to endure this?
The motivation is doing the right thing. I don't stand to gain personally from any of this. And I guess that's the motivation for most whistleblowers, just to do the right thing.
Now, you've had to deal, I mean, your reputation is at stake. Your job has been threatened in a lot of ways. How do you feel, like when you saw this process evolve, where were your fellow employees? Where was city council? Where was the city? I mean, this almost feels like the city has unlimited wealth to cover up this situation or to deflate it, while you're having to risk your future, your home, your finances.
Well, it's true that my personal finances, my assets are at risk. I'm at the end of my working life. I have a year to go.
Yeah. A year until pension.
Yeah. Until pension. I guess I get a lot of strength from friends, family, and strangers. People, you meet people in the grocery store or at the car wash, and some of them I've never seen them before in my life, and they come up and they shake my hand.
Have you loved being a fire chief?
Oh, being a deputy fire chief is a great job. It sure is. It can be very exciting, can be very fulfilling. It's a lot of work, but it's, the rewards are there. Being a firefighter, one of the firefighters on the crews, on the platoons, that is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. It's wonderful.
And as a firefighter, every time you go out on a call, you're putting your life on the line.
Well, not every time. I think that's a popular myth, that every time we go out we're risking our lives. Firefighters do risk their lives a lot. They have to depend on their equipment and their training and on their procedures to keep them from getting hurt or killed. And there are definitely times when, yes, your life is at risk. But every time that alarm goes off, somebody is in danger or at risk somehow. Either their person or their property, their health. We do a lot of medical calls, So every time that alarm goes off, you're going out to help somebody. That's a great feeling.
And the public always knows that if they're in trouble, they dial 911 and here come the fire trucks.
That's right.
Do you feel that when you've dialed 911 as a whistleblower that you've been responded to appropriately?
I don't think appropriately. Whether the response was appropriate or not, I guess is before the courts at this time. It'll be for a judge to decide.
But do you feel, like, we're not going to get into specifics, but do you feel personally like that you've been let down by the city?
I had hoped that things would be handled a lot differently. I guess maybe naively, I thought that, and I've said this to a lot of people, I think this could have been, my complaint could have been handled in a day.
And yet here we are years later, and all countless thousands of dollars spent.
Yes.
On both parties, because the city's spending a lot more money than you've had to spend.
I don't know what their finances are. I've made a Freedom of Information request on that.
Which they delayed for 30 days.
Which I haven't received yet.
Yeah. What's your greatest memory so far working for the Cornwall Fire Department?
My greatest memory so far working for the Cornwall Fire Department. I'm chock full of good memories and some horrific memories. But I guess I would have to categorize them as the feeling of esprit de corps You know,
With your fellow firefighters?
yeah, and that's something that once you go into the management side, of course you're somewhat removed from the actual firefighting and being on scene, and the best memories were that esprit de corps with the other firefighters.
Has it been an issue with your fellow firefighters while you've been working during this whole process? Because this hasn't been a real secret. I mean, everyone's been talking about it in Cornwall for over a year.
No, I have to compliment the Cornwall Professional Firefighters Association and the members. They are exactly that. They're professional. Irrespective of what their personal feelings might be about this complaint and things that have happened downstream of that, they've always been professional. They never let their personal feelings interfere with our dealings, interfere with me. They've always treated me very well.
Have you had a lot of support from your fellow firefighters?
Yes. Now, I'm not a fool. I realize that there are some of them that don't agree with what I'm doing or question why I would do this in my last year of work. But as I say, they maintain their professional attitude and status, and when they come to work, they're there to do their jobs.
Now, we just had the first hearing a little while ago, and the city is trying to squash your case and squash funding, your request for funding by the city. If for some reason the judge decides not to support you, will you be allowing the community to come up and help support your case, or would it be over?
At that point, I have to make a large decision, and it's like the Texas Hold'em. You got to decide whether you're going to go all in.
Yeah.
And so far, I'm all in. And but if I'm not granted equal funding, then I would make an appeal to the community to help me with that, and we'll let that unfold as it will.
Because we've had several inquiries about whether there's a fund to donate to or not, but there's no official fund at this point.
No, there's no official fund, and I really don't know how that could be put together.
Yeah. Well, we saw with the Rob Ford incident, for example, that they used social funding, crowdsourcing funding. So, for instance, the public was able to contribute, and they actually hit the $200,000 plateau to purchase the Rob Ford video. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that would want to contribute to help your situation.
Well, I'd certainly be making that appeal.
Because this is more than just about Rob Hickley and the city. This is the process of whistleblowing, and if we can't have people that whistleblow in a protected manner, that means potentially any government official, management or elected, can do what they want with complete freedom.
Currently, as it stands, it's an unequal, it's an unlevel playing field, if you will. Currently, I think that the resources available to the whistleblower are greatly overshadowed by the resources available to the other side.
Do you think it's not just the funding, but do you think the actual process itself is flawed?
Yes.
I mean, should it ever have to get to this level?
No, I don't think it should ever have to get to this level.
Yeah.
There's too much of a toll, personally, emotionally, physically. I may have to give this up because of my health.
Yeah, you've been suffering a lot of health conditions. Diane Shea also, the other whistleblower in Cornwall, has gone through a lot of issues as well. It takes a toll, this much stress and this much uncertainty.
Yes, the stress, the anxiety. Can we stop for a minute?
We could. Just one sec. We're back with Deputy Fire Chief Rob Hickley. When this is all done, when this is all over, and if you're successful in getting your funding and going through the process, because this is going to be a long process. As a matter of fact, it'll probably last longer than the time left before you retire.
Yes.
The thought of maybe at the end of the day, not being deputy fire chief anymore, not being an active firefighter, do you think at the end of the day it'll all have been worth it?
I think so. I think so. If I hadn't thought it would be worth it, if I couldn't have affected some change, then it would have been silly to even try. But I think we can affect some change.
Do you think if the system right now in Cornwall and in other municipalities, I don't know if this is a Cornwall exclusive issue, maybe the handling of this has been, but do you think we need it to be easier for whistleblowers to step forward?
I think at all levels, not necessarily in Cornwall. When you look at what's happening in Montreal and Laval,
And Toronto.
Rob Ford, when you look at what's happening at the federal level, people are afraid to come forward for what might happen to them. And that's wrong. That's just simply wrong.
Do you think more people would step forward if there wasn't that stigma and that the brutality that you and Diane have gone through?
I think most people just want to live their lives with as little stress and upset as possible. And I can't blame them for that. I mean, I'm part of that crowd. Excuse me.